All right, so Darren Walsh here. I have with me today Glenn Edley from Spike for our very first interview in the Q&A, The Journey. So welcome, Glenn.
Thanks, Darren. Good to be here. Excited
Mate,
to be number one.
you are number one, mate. You are the very first person to come into this, and let's hope that I can pull this off without embarrassing myself.
No, you'll be awesome. You'll be awesome. Very organized. You're very organized. If anyone wants to, they only get to this part, let me tell you that Darren is very organized when it comes to this stuff.
So you are known as the email guy, right? So your business Spike, you help retailers and stuff. Well, tell me a little bit about it. What do you do?
So, Spike, 2 words, maximize and grow. We're all about maximizing existing customer databases and then growing them. I've found that works personally as well, maximizing what you've got and then learning new skills, doing your things and growing. So I've realized
100%,
recently,
isn't it?
Yeah,
You've always got to be learning, yeah.
Always. We were just having a conversation this morning about thinking age, or how old someone is mentally, right? And I think a lot of that has to do with people who stop learning. So if you don't stop learning, I think you come across as a younger person.
Yeah, that's very, very true. I'm right into that. I'm a constant, as you know, we've known each other for a little while now. Always trying to learn, huh?
Yeah.
And look, I want you to tell me a little bit of your journey. You've got some amazing stories. We've probably got hours that we could spend telling you some of your stories. And
I'll stick to my notes.
But before we get started, tell me a little bit about one thing that you would change on your journey to get here, because this would just give us some little context into some of the stories you're about to tell us.
So, because I've been reading through your questions, as I said, you're very organized, and so I don't have regrets. So I don't look back at stuff and go, "Oh, I wish I'd done that." I've kind of moved. I don't do that. That's just a waste of energy. I think for me though, I was looking at. So I would change nothing in reality, because without all that awesome stuff that happened, all that really bad stuff that happened, I wouldn't be where I was today. I would probably change one thing, which I have reminded myself. So if there was one thing I was going to change, I would say, in the words of Donald Trump, this is the smartest thing that Donald Trump has ever said in his life. If you're going to be thinking anyway, you may as well think big, or bigly, as he would probably say these days, right? So I think that's it really, just thinking bigger and constantly reminding myself to think bigger.
That's a good bit of advice you're giving people listening today, because everything that's happened, good and bad, has brought you through the journey that you've been on, and it's got to where you are now, right?
Yep.
And there's so many lessons there that you can take in and learn from, and make yourself better, your business better, yourself better, all that sort of thing. It's not about ignoring the bad things that happen, but it is about just sort of accepting them, isn't it?
Well, it's also getting the lesson, right? I think that one of the a human failing that we have is that sometimes we don't get the lesson the first time. And I think that people who move ahead faster get the lesson before they've done it a few times. And I've seen some very successful people fail because they missed a particular lesson from a long time ago. And, so some of those lessons took me a while. And I think, I'm always these days looking out, okay, what's the lesson here Have I been in this situation before? And I think like we're of an age, Darren, where we've probably been in a lot of situations now. And so
there's a bit of water under the bridge, isn't there?
You've just got to remember what those situations were and go, what's the best way out of this? And, having those hard conversations sometimes.
But we have to fail, right? Like everyone has to fail in order to succeed. Like it's this constant battle with yourself to really understand that, hey, success comes in part from failure, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Absolutely. I've been reading Principles by Ray Dalio, which I've been wanting to read.
Book.
Yeah, great book, right? And that is a lot of failure, huge amounts of failure. But taking the lesson every time. Okay, so it's testing, and I see myself as an experiment of one. So I know that what works for me doesn't necessarily work for other people. But you have to see yourself as, unique, like everybody else. But be that experiment, trying things like just consciously responding to your husband, wife, work colleague, kids in a different way and seeing what happens.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a fascinating experiment to run with.
Could be dangerous though, Glenn. Could be dangerous.
I have dug some very big holes and tried to work out how to get out of them. I haven't.
So tell me, Glenn, you've got some great stories. Tell me about your journey to get where you are today. Tell me about some of those pathways. Sometimes you've been down a few dry gullies, I know, and had a few bumps, but there's been some good times as well, right?
Yeah, exactly. Look, a concise version is that I didn't have the grades to get into Air Force. Got in there by doing amazingly well in a test, and that set me up for straight out of school for quite an interesting and varied career, right? Because that's a really good grounding to be in the military. I did 3 years there, and then out of that, I thought I wanted to get into travel, and so that I didn't get the job I wanted, which I will be honest here and say I wanted to be a flight attendant.
Right.
I thought that here's a way to travel, and unfortunately I was too young at the time by only like a year. And anyway, but that led me on to doing car alarms. This might seem like a segue, but it was like I've always done my own car stereos and all that kind of stuff. And you're very, practical.
Well, you're a real car enthusiast, aren't you? Like you just love it. Don't you?
Love it. I like the problems that you have to solve, but we can get into that a bit later. But I quickly realized that car alarms, really good into that, built a very successful business. And this is one of those dry gullies where I was being excellent business for 2 years. It was just growing, and I had some really good contracts, Vodafone contracts and stuff. And a law was coming into place, which we would now see as this law is you can't text and drive or hold your phone. People still do it, right? But, So, and that law didn't come in 2001 in New Zealand. It came in 2007. And I know the guys who did really well out of that next law when it came in. But for me, overnight gone. Just people cancelling like you wouldn't believe. It was crazy.
What, because they were allowed to actually talk on their phone, so they didn't need a hands-free kit.
No.
Yeah, right. So your business is no value.
No, gone, because such a small percentage then was car alarms and stereos and stuff, and 90% of our work. I had to let a couple of guys go. I helped them get jobs. But from there, though, this is where email marketing, and this is quite condensed, but I've always been involved in the web. And so since I was very young, and, and then I saw, so what happened was I needed some extra money. So I thought I'd help out my girlfriend's stepdad, and I was doing all this database work, kind of
How old are you at this stage? Like,
probably 2001. I'm like 30, I think. 29, 30. Yeah.
so just and you got family and stuff at this stage, and
No.
still batching it.
Yeah. And I started working for myself when I was 24. So
Yeah.
Half my life now working for myself.
Yeah.
And so here's what happened. I was like, what are you doing with this data? He goes, oh, I'm selling this email marketing product. And I was like, okay, can I have a look? So he showed it to me, and I'm like, man, here is a way where a single person can keep in touch with and stay top of mind with hundreds, if not thousands of people, and go about their day-to-day business, right? The stuff. Now, at the time, if I thought about real estate, they can just keep listing and selling and keep in touch. And all my first clients were all real estate companies.
Yeah. Okay.
And I built up a good business there. But that hasn't changed. So for me, email marketing hasn't really changed because it's really good at two things. And that is staying top of mind and prompt in action. So from there, him and I worked together for a few years, and that came to an end, as did the girlfriend. So it was a parting of ways. I went out on my own in August. I set up the company. Went out on my own a bit before, but I set up the company in August 2004, and that's it. I've been in business. Like, I started the New Zealand Sales Institute on the way through.
Tell me that story. That's an interesting story, that one.
Well, so the New Zealand Sales Institute was a place where we could promote the professionalism and, just the skills of salespeople. And the fact is, to me, it is a very valuable profession, because, like, one of my rules, I suppose, is that nothing happens without a sale. So I got that from my dad. Nothing happens.
I mean, that's 100%, right? Like, as much as, I mean, myself, as you know, I don't like selling, but I have to sell, right? So I've developed ways in which to do that, right?
Yeah.
And everyone in business, and everyone listening today, needs to sell to their business, and they have to keep that front of mind. They have to actually make sure they're selling. Yeah. Yeah.
And by the way, everybody is a good salesperson. There is no such thing as a bad salesperson. If you're a human being who wakes up every morning breathing, you are a good salesperson. Because the thing about it is that you are selling yourself every day. You're selling yourself to yourself, and you're selling whatever story, your self-belief, that picture of yourself you hold to be true, which you need to sometimes change. You're selling to your everyone you come in contact, your kids. Like, there is selling going on, right? And I think that if you boil it right down to that, you can actually create this confidence by actually having some small wins that then get you to just do a cold call, which these days I don't think there's really anything as a cold call, because if you're checking someone out on Facebook, you're checking someone out on LinkedIn, you have an idea about who they are and what value you can provide before you call them. So that's why the New Zealand Sales Institute, to me, I loved it. I set up this massive thing, but by thing I mean website. It had different layers of entry, like a salesperson and a sales manager and the boss, and they could all see what courses they were doing. It was huge. Unfortunately, I set it up with a con man, and I didn't know that.
Man. That's so what happened?
So I didn't throw him out a window, which was pretty good. I have my psychiatrist to thank for that.
So that's one of those things that you would have changed or wouldn't have changed.
You know what? I say that flippantly, like I was very angry at the time, but I didn't tell him. He didn't.
So he literally conned you through this whole thing.
So no,
because this doesn't happen to everyone, right?
No, it doesn't. here's what was happening. This thing was amazing. Like, we were making money, although I wasn't getting any of it. He was basically driving around in new BMWs, so was his wife. And I was like, this is a bit odd. But I got it because it was the first year we're going for it. He'd get me some money. I'm very glad I didn't buy a Porsche. I bought a Volkswagen Passat instead because I, would have been a lot in debt. He was like, buy the Porsche. I'm like, no. So what happened is that it turns out that he had conned a lot of people out of money in Australia, and he'd then gone to the States, done a similar thing, and then he'd basically come to New Zealand to hide. But because of who he is, he just couldn't help himself and raise his profile. And so my dad had met this guy, 20 odd years earlier. And at the time, he wasn't a con man, from what we understand. He was actually a very well-respected speaker and sales trainer. Very well-respected, earning good money. Somewhere along the line, something has happened where he lost a lot of money, and he's basically believed that other people owe him that money. And so, or he's trying to dig himself out, and he was always trying to keep one step ahead. So he started...
This is the story that he had got you to believe, yeah?
Yeah. Well, we didn't know any of this, any of this at all, Darren, until he got deported from the country.
Got deported?
He got arrested at Christmas, and he got deported. He was flown over to Australia, and I think he might be out of jail now. And
we've got him over here now.
Yeah. Well, he's Australian, mate, so we sent him back. Yeah. So
get out of here.
The story is great because at the end of the day, for me, I learned, basically I had a business degree in 1 year. Like, he was very good. Like, he taught me that, relationships are where it's at. He taught me some very, very valuable lessons. It's just unfortunately that life caught up with him, and there was a big shoe or big boot on the end of the foot. And and one thing about Australians is that they take fraud, they take, these kind of things very seriously. I think more serious than probably New Zealand, and they put them in jail.
Yeah.
And so,
those sorts of people deserve it, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's a big story about it. And one thing for me though, is that I really kept my head down during that year. I had kept some clients and I just kept going. Right. And so, he was bad mouthing me, and I didn't do any of that. I just walked away, took all my stuff, which kind of left him in the shit, really. One thing I did, which is quite petty, but I've enjoyed it, is that he tried to take my my post office box off me.
Right.
And I was like, why would you do that? Anyway, because that's where our mail went, I suppose. So anyway, I decided no, and so I've kept it for 20 years. And
even though it might be inconvenient.
Yeah, pretty much. And I'm just getting rid of it now. But I was like, I'm going to keep it for 20 years.
I was going to say, I don't know too many people who've got a post office box these days, but
no. So and the only thing that goes there is mail from warehouse stationery, maybe. But it's quite funny. But I think the lessons I learned from him, about the relationship, putting the relationship before the sale, even like that is actually true. Like he was a very good sales trainer. It's just unfortunate that, from what we understand, he had a gambling habit that put him in debt, and then he was just constantly on the back foot from then on. So, that was a great.
But you moved on from there, right? So that like you probably went backwards a fair bit there, but you've come a long way since then, right?
Oh, I went a couple of $100K in the hole, and at the time I didn't really have, I was like, shit, I didn't earn any money for a year, and it was like, wow. I had to struggle, but afterwards, people contacted me and realized that it wasn't me, and I got some more clients out of it. So things move forward again. I never stop. I think there's a guy named Tillman Petita. I've only really just come across, and he talks about keep punching. So I just keep punching. Like
Well, you got to keep going, right? Like life puts these adversities in front of us, and as you say, all those, you know, highs and lows we go through, they make us, or, you know, what we are today, don't they? You know, so it's how we deal with them.
It's true. I think, you know, the strongest steel is made by, you know, like heating it and folding it and heating it and beating it and all that kind of stuff. And I think you do need to put yourself in the fire, as it were. And I know that's a cliche, but the fact is that you're not going to be all you can be, or I don't know, whatever you want to say, if you haven't been tested, if you haven't put yourself out there. I mean, it's very easy these days just to sit on the couch. You know, and if we want to talk about like the car stuff, right? Like I co-drive a rally car, and people think I'm mad, and because like to me, like the co-driver generally gets hurt, right? So,
so I've never done it, but it must be a frightening thing. So just to talk about that, you know, like to sit in there and have someone else run the wheel as a business owner when you're in charge all the time, what's that like? What's that transition like?
That involves a lot of trust.
Yeah.
You know, like and then also most co-drivers are probably slightly crazier than the drivers. I think a lot of drivers are actually quite conservative in some respects, so you've got to keep pushing them. But I love it. I love it. I never feel scared. I think there's one time I felt scared. What did we do? I mean, we've crashed several times. That doesn't scare us. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But one thing I think, we haven't been scared. I don't think I have, actually, to be honest. I mean, we just went.
Well, you were telling me, yeah, you've. I saw you sent me the picture of it. You know,
yeah.
It was like you turned the Porsche into a four-wheel drive.
No, that was us down a bank.
Tell me about that story. Yeah.
So we were 4 days into Targa. It's a 5-day tarmac rally. It's one of the only things in the world. There's one in Tasmania, but these are quite unique. It's a unique experience in the world. And it's 5 days of racing and touring, like it's proper rally stuff. You know, we wear like full WRC head. Yeah, we got everything, right? Mark's really invested in safety gear, so we're very safe. And we'd had a broken alternator, which we got very good at changing batteries and stuff for the first 3 days. And we started off this day and we're doing really, like, we were feeling good. Like everything was coming together. We just blasted out of this place called Hunterville in the middle of the North Island, up a hill. And we came to a left-hand corner and we didn't stop. And we just went straight off a bank through a tree. And
that wasn't the co-driver or anything responsible there, was it? Like,
actually, what's quite funny is we've never had a crash that's my fault. So,
get out of it.
No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding. Mark would actually be the first to admit that. Like he would say, because other people will come up and go, "Oh, it's your co-driver's fault." No, we've never had an accident due to me. But we had this big, as we came up, it's happened to us before. So what happens is we've got video of our faces, right? So we know what we did. We know how we're reacting. We're still both trying to save the car. Like, we're thinking like, but then you get to a point where you're like, oh yeah, because you can't see anything, right? The road goes up the hill and it's just, there's nothing. There's just like the hills, you know?
Yeah.
So we're like, oh, okay, I wonder what's on the other side. Like so what happened was, we go flying over this bank and end up, a fence stops us from going much further, which is okay. It was down into a paddock. And then we get out. And what was actually, do you know what was scary? There was a scary moment. We're sitting in the car and we're trying to get out and the car's like, there's a fire, which is, it's all right. We saw that. But it's like, I know I just glossed past the fact that there was a fire, but anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's okay.
Just a small little thing.
Yeah. It was a small thing. It was the brakes on the grass and stuff, and some brake fluid. So Mark's and the shock fluid as well. What had happened was we found out that the shock had broken, and so we were passengers.
All right.
what was scary was listening to the other guys come up the road and just thinking,
Oh,
because we didn't know at that stage the suspension had broken. We thought there was a big patch of gravel. We thought that maybe the car had like skidded in the gravel and then like just like gone.
so you're thinking some other car could come over the hill?
Yeah, that was the scary moment, was thinking another car is going to come over and land on our head.
Yeah.
We got away from that car so fast. Like Mark had to climb up my side. Like it was quite a hard case, but we got up there and you know, put our OK sign up. But yeah, so I'll tell you what, that's the lessons that's taught me, is how far I can go in myself. So like co-drivers get car sick.
Yeah, I would definitely be car sick, most of it.
So you're puking and telling your guy what to do and not to slow down.
Oh, so you're actually puking in the car as a co-driver?
Yeah, like on day 2, there was a few, like there's a whole bunch of us. We just had it was just a very long stage. It was like 46K or so. It was really long, and got to the end of it and was just, you know, sick near the end. And it turns out that if I'm sick when I'm co-driving, it generally means there's a heap of other people being sick as well. And it's just, and so even Mark was not feeling great after that one. It was a very long stage. It was a long day of racing. And but you can't stop, right? So you're just And what I've recognized, because some people don't understand that, they're like, how can you do that? Like, your car sick, and it's like, you just keep going.
Yeah.
You don't stop. Like, do not, like, for me, I'm if I can talk at the stage, he is not allowed to slow down.
Yeah.
Because that's costing us time. Yeah.
That's right. Well, it's a great lesson for all of us, isn't it? Like, you know, no matter what's happening around, you just got to keep going, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. Keep going.
And speed gets results, doesn't it? So if we act quickly, we get results, don't we?
Yeah, and like that's one of my you said I have some things called Glenn's laws, but I wrote them down as Glenn's laws. One of them is, which I learned at a very young age, is if in doubt, gas it. And I think that applies. Like, if in doubt, go. Because for racing, man, like I learned it doing motocross. Basically, if in doubt, gas it. Went on to road racing, you know, into business. If in doubt, just put the pedal down and like, and you'll be able to steer yourself out of it. Do you know what I mean?
Yep. So it's about, like, if you're not sure, just go ahead and have a go, isn't it?
Yeah. Because what's the worst that can happen? Like, really, I think, like, in a car, you know, I race a front wheel drive. So for me, I have to put my foot down and drive out of it. Like, if I don't put my foot down, the arse will come around and I'll hit the wall. So,
and while you're doing that, you know you're safe. You know, you got all your gear on, you got all the stuff in the car. You know, you've been safe. You know, like in business, if you're going to put the gas down, you know, you're relying on your systems and everything to hold you together, aren't you?
Yeah. And what's the worst that can happen, Darren? Someone says no.
Yeah, that's right.
Human beings are not generally rude. Most people don't tell you like to go, like to F off, right? They don't say that kind of stuff. They just, hey, look, no, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Like that, you know, they shouldn't hurt your feelings because they're just not interested. They're not interested. It's not you. They don't know you. And I think that as an introvert, like for you, like that's something when I meet people who are, you know, this whole idea of like, you know, people think I'm very gregarious and all that stuff, but I still have those same feelings like, oh shit, they're not going to like me. But at the end of the day, like, they don't know me. So as long as as long as my friends and family like me, like, you know.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to hold on to those values, isn't it? You know, what's really important in the world, and that's what's important, isn't it? And the fact that someone says no it's not the end of the world, you know.
No, it's not.
That you can always, it just gives you an opportunity to talk to someone else, doesn't it?
No, it does. And look, if you want to get down to it, I know a very successful guy who was he was one of the top, well, I think he was the top insurance guy in New Zealand for quite a while, Charles Donahue. You know, he tells me about getting his numbers. So if you have your numbers, which is you've worked out over the last X amount of time that for every 10 people you've called, you've got 2 new clients, then you know, this is how he puts it, right? He would tell people, because, you know, say a new client's worth $2,000, right?
Mm.
So everyone you talk to, he would say, he would do this thing where he'd put his hand in his wallet, right? Or put his wallet, and he would say, you know, thank you, I've just made $500. They'd be like, what? Well, and he would go through it. Like, I know that for every 10 people, I'm going to get 2 new clients. And so you are worth this much money to me. And it's funny that when he would talk about that kind of thing to people, they would sometimes go, you need to come and talk to me about insurance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you don't have to vocalize that to people, but if you think about it and you know your numbers, like business is all about knowing your numbers, right? I fail upon that every so often because to me, it's just about getting revenue in the door and then thinking about it later.
Well, sort of, but you know, you do know your number. I know you do, right? I know you track them all the time, but you know, you're tracking revenue to hit a target, right?
Yeah.
And it's a good lesson for everyone listening because you just can't try and hit any number. You've got to hit a number.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep.
And that's what numbers are about, isn't it? It's not making them up after the fact. It's making them up before it and say, "How I'm going to hit this one."
Yeah. Look, I listened to this podcast yesterday that just reminded me of keeping things simple. It's a guy named Andy Frisella, and it's the MF CEO podcast. Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
I'm sure you can work
I'll check
out
it out.
things. But he was talking about his power list. So once you know your numbers, his power list is the 5 things he will do today that will take him to those numbers, right? And he thinks quite big. And I think you should think big, like we talked about at the beginning with Trump, right? You should think big because like it just helps you and everybody else. And the thing is that, but once you do those 5 things every day and you cross them off, it's about creating the habits that get you to make the phone calls, that get you to go to the gym, that get you to do. And so the power list is not goals. The power list is actually 5 things you will do. And do you know what? You might tick that off in the first hour of your day, but it doesn't matter. And then once those things become a habit, like reaching out to a new person every day, once you've done that for a couple of months, you can take that one off because you know you're going to do that every day now. So this power list was about creating habits, and those habits are going to create you, and then they're going to create your business. So you've got to know your numbers, and then because then you can create the marketing plan and the offers and what, you know, when I look at what you go through, you know, you can create those things to get there. And look, hey, you might not want to think too big. You might go, oh.
Well, we all don't have to be the next global icon, do we? But you know, whatever it is that we want to achieve, I mean, I think that lesson you just said, again, another great lesson for everyone listening, is the list isn't 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 things. It's 5.
Yeah.
You know, and I do talk to people about you know, Stephen Covey way back when, you know, he used to talk about, you know, the 3 the 3 things.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I must admit, I'm probably one of the few people who could almost not stay awake reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It was one of the most boring books I've ever read, but but anyway, that was just me.
Yeah, I get that. I do.
I'm sure there's some lessons in there somewhere.
I think Principles by Ray Dalio was a much easier read than the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, look, if it's 3 things, I don't care. Like, if it's 3 things or it's 5, that and those 5 things might be go to the gym every day, or it might be drink water and move every day. And once
Yeah.
you've got into the habit of drinking water and moving every day, you take it off the list. So you've got a gap, and then you put in the next habit you want to create. And I think that's the thing that I picked up actually, was actually like taking the things off the list and adding the new thing on that you want to create the habit for.
Yep. Yeah. And interesting, you use that as a example there. That's not a business example. That's a life example. So those 5 things should cover not just business. They should cover you and your life and family as well, shouldn't they?
Yeah. I think I talked to you about, I might have sent you this link, but Noah Kagan has got this good framework, I think, that's worked for me in the past. This WWPP. So it's work, workout, personal, and places to visit. And, you know, like, so work, you know, you've got your work goals. And so it's like one of your 5 things is something that you can do today to get you to that work goal. Something that you can do today to get you to your workout goal, you know, and I like keeping it simple, because keeping it simple means you're going to do it. Like, if it's hard, it's going to be like, I track everything. I just, you know, an interesting thing I started tracking recently was my intermittent fasting. And I was wondering, like, oh man, I've been doing this for a few years now. Like, basically since I was 45, I realized I need to eat less, because for life extension and all sorts of things. But I just think, so I was like, okay, I need to track that. But I was just doing it myself, reading about it. But when I started tracking it about a week ago, suddenly I realized, oh, hang on a sec, because I've got something to be accountable to, even though it's just an app. I'm actually making better decisions. Like I won't have that Macintosh lolly or those biscuits.
Yeah. It's that accountability is I think we need that, don't we? You know, in all aspects of things. And
so you and I, Darren, have an accountability group, right? And I think that to me, I've got more. I was talking to James about this. I feel I've got a lot of, even though we only met a few times last year and we're going to start it up again this year. I think that being accountable has actually, just in that little, like, has actually, I've done more things, I actually think, because, you know, we're accountable to each other more. And it's been really interesting to do that. So accountability doesn't have to be big. Like, I think, like, you think if you're married, you know, you want to be accountable to your wife and stuff. Well, that's going to be hard. Like, it is, because there's just so much stuff going on there. They're busy as well, right? So the fact is, like, I downloaded a very simple app, and that Peter Attia had recommended, and it's like, it's working. So just find, I think Tim Ferriss talked about this years ago in the 4-hour work week, the minimum effective dose. And the minimum MED, right, is finding the MED in everything that gets you the result you want. So I think for a lot of people, 1 phone call a day, 1 LinkedIn message a day. Like, if you get into the habit of reaching out every single day, and I'm saying this to remind myself, you are not going to be a year ahead in 12 months' time. You are going to be 3 to 5 years ahead in 12 months' time.
Just by doing little things frequently.
Yeah, little things, that 1% improvement. But, you know, just a LinkedIn message, an email, keeping those relationships alive, or reaching out to new people. The more people that know you, the more people that know what you do, the more people are going to be able to refer you as well. Like, I'm working on that this year. I'm working on people knowing what I can do, or what we do, so that so more people can recommend us, because I probably get 80 to 90%. It kind of varies sometimes year to year of my business through referral. That's insane. We're talking national retailers and you know, people like that, and it's from referrals, because as these people move around, you need to talk to Glenn. And
Mm,
so,
mm.
like,
And that's a sale too, though, isn't it? Like, setting up that referral is a sale. You go to a networking group or you go to some conference or event or something like that, and you're still in that selling mode, but selling has changed, hasn't it? And the way we approach people has changed. So let's get back into that email, the magic word email.
yeah.
How has that changed over years? Has the way we present email changed? I mean, the big question that everyone wants to, ask you all the time is email dead. Come on, Glenn. That's your favorite question, I know.
So I think company email is dead. That died with the advent of Slack. Like, you should not be emailing each other if you're in a business. Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I think email marketing has not died, because email is the only platform that you own, that you control, that you set the rules for, that you set the expectations for, and that you control, like, from end to end. Like, nothing else is like that. You're working to algorithms. Yep, text messaging. There's like, okay, but just as the biggest thing, phone calls obviously, but it's like the biggest thing in technology really is email marketing. And I'm seeing that more and more people are getting onto it. In New Zealand, it's quite slow, I feel, but in Australia, because we do some stuff over there, I think it's getting, they're a little bit more ahead. But in America, just like how far forward it is. And here's the interesting thing, is that no matter what the technology is doing, like, I think one day, maybe these things will be able to build emails themselves. I mean, there is technology that builds emails. But what we found is that you still need that human element, which is strategy, tactics and all that, to actually get the maximum. And we send email with purpose. So email with purpose is aligning your marketing. I mean, we specialize in email marketing, is aligning that with your business objectives. And as soon as we do that, like,
so talk to me about that again. So email with purpose is aligning with your business objectives.
Yeah, is aligning your, let's just call it marketing with purpose too, right?
Yeah.
It's aligning your marketing with your business objectives, because then you can measure the success so much easier, right? And there's like the transparency we have with email, Google Analytics, Facebook ads, like that return on ad spend that we can see, amazing, right? And we should be tracking that. So look, I just signed up a big liquor banner over here, and the thing that it's a franchise. So the thing I recognize about franchises is that we have to get the franchisees on board, and that's very hard sometimes, right? So what I was looking at is, or what I know from experience, is that if I'm able to prove the monetary difference that a person with an email has. So for example, we had a company where a customer with an email address, and by the way, this company didn't sell online, they sold in store only, right? You had to go as a health company. So, so don't think this is just for e-commerce, right? This is for everything. So the thing is that we realized that a person with an email was worth $5 more per transaction. And they were more likely to purchase several times more over the year than someone who didn't have, we had their customer details, but we didn't have their email address. Now,
right. So if you had a customer with an email address, it would increase their customer lifetime value. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, by a big factor. Because so what happened was, because we're marketing to them all the time, right? We're having these conversations, and also we're personalizing as much as we can. So we're having these one-to-one conversations, even though it's mass marketing, right? The thing about it is, though, is that once you know those numbers, it just means that everyone in the business is more likely to start collecting emails that you can market to. So that completely, like, I think in the first year we added like 300K to the bottom line. So,
wow.
I think it's knowing those numbers. And for me, email marketing, it comes down to control. I know that and the other thing is, it's not the next stage after that is that when you sell your business, this is what a lot of people don't think about, because this is a problem at the moment with baby boomers, right? Baby boomers, very successful, don't have customer databases. So their businesses are valueless. There is hardly like any goodwill, gone. Because, well, where's your customer database? Oh, sitting over here, and it's like, so if you have a customer database that you are consistently marketing to via email, and we can measure that, that is worth money. That means that could be the difference between a multiplier of 3 or 10. And everyone wants the 10, right? And so
everyone.
And so even for franchises, the goodwill and having their segment of the main database being marketed to all the time, that's their store's customers, right? I think that is worth so much more goodwill at the end of the day when they want to sell their franchise one day. So that's why, to me, email marketing still kicks ass. And
so with the people listening, like say they're a solopreneur or they're got a small team, how often should they be emailing?
Well, I've got a couple of mantras that'll help with that. Consistency, trust, loyalty, bars and barbecues. So be consistent. So just go, we can email once a month. That's probably not enough these days, by the way. Like, it's not. We email out of here.
Once a month's not enough.
No, it's not. We email out of here once a week.
Once a week.
It's not a big newsletter, by the way, though. Spike News is just some stuff we've seen during the week that we like, and it's a link to the new songs we've added to our office Spotify playlist. Like it, movies we like, stuff we've seen. It's just a journal. So you don't have to be some big flash newsletter. You just need to send something that's interesting to you, your team, and your customers. And don't send stuff about yourself all the time, because they don't care about you. Like they care about them. The most important conversation you're going to have with them is about them. So send stuff for them. And then, so
that's such a great lesson that's worth repeating, isn't it? Like it's, everything. One of the hardest lessons I have to teach with people is to not talk about themselves. Think about what the client wants, and that's a big shout out you've just done. Then is even an email. It's not about you, is it? It's about them. Yeah.
And look, Chris Kostock was a master at that. Like, back to this thing. And it's like, he was so good at that. And in fact, that's why he was a good con man too, at the end of the day, right? Because he'd get you talking, and he would work out what was important to you. He did it he did it in a nefarious way. Whereas we can do it in a way that we know is going to help
with ethics and morals and
So then, so consistency, trust, loyalty, bars and barbecues. So bars and barbecues, that's where people share stories about you. That's where people refer you, right?
Yeah.
And you've either got to create those stories for them to share, or they are sharing their story, right? Because you've been so amazing. And then the next thing is send less more often. So that comes down to these journals. Do not write big missives. Like no one can. Like if you think about your phone, you think about how many times you scroll, you're going to scroll twice, probably 3 times. Like our data shows us like 3 times max, right? So if your thing is too long, no one's getting to the end anymore. They used to, but not anymore, right?
Right.
So this whole idea of putting like stuff at the end, we used to do because we could track like heat maps down to where people were clicking. It's changed a bit now. So we're shortening everything up. So less more often and send more.
And so what you're referring to there, you sort of glanced over that, but that's a pretty important little thing. So, one of those tactics was about the PS and the PPS and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you finding works now?
So look, when it comes to personal email, I think personal email, same, less more often, right? Like marketing email, send less more often. But if you're doing personal emails, actually, this is a good thing to talk about. people do read the postscripts, right? People just
Yeah.
quickly, so subject line, super important, right? Still, I also think I don't always say hi first name anymore because they already know who they are.
Yeah.
But I keep everything. And the other thing in personal email is I try to have one idea or one thing I want them to do or whatever ask in that email. Just one. Now
Yeah.
that's hard for people sometimes, but it keeps it very short. And then in that postscript, I think people do read postscripts. I think so. Almost repeat what you want in the postscript, or send them into a call to action or something. So for marketing email, we don't have PSs and stuff, obviously, because it's but if it's a personal email, like we do a lot of kind of funnels for our clients, and some of those are personal emails, then we will put an important call to action in that postscript.
So for those listening, so tell me, what's the difference between a personal email and a marketing email? So, when do we use those, and what is the difference for those business owners out there that want to set up their email funnels and stuff like that, and the email correspondence? What should they be doing? What's personal and what's marketing?
So personal is me replying or me reaching out, and it looks like like it's me actually. I physically typed an email. That is one type of personal email. The other one is when you're doing your funnels and you've actually thought about this person and you've thought about where they are in the journey and you've written something personal to them. I mean, yes, it's going to go out to hundreds or thousands of people, but you've thought about that customer avatar. You've thought about what's in it, and it's just words, right? Whereas a marketing...
So you're still talking to one person, it's just being sent to lots of people, and you're hoping that one person is amongst those people. Well, they are. Yeah.
Email is one-to-one. It doesn't matter how many hundreds of thousands or millions in your database. At the end of the day, it's going from one server to one inbox. Do you know what I mean? So, I think that you have to think about that customer on the other end. Too many people don't. They just want to get their messages out there. They just want to and that's called batch and blast, right? And I hate that. So I like to think about my actual customer and write for them. So any copy in that email is written very personally. It's written in the voice of you or your business. It's funny. It's serious if you're serious. So. And you should write all your emails like that. And I think even so, email is one-to-one. And if people think about that, like you will write and send different emails. So
write to a person.
Yeah, you'll write to a person. And look, if it means that you have to print something out and there's Sophie and James, 24 to 45 or whatever, who drink this type of beer and she does this, and have that sitting on the wall in the office to remind you, you need to do that,
Yeah.
And people forget. They send emails and they forget that there's a person opening up that email at the other end. There is a person sitting on their phone going, oh, okay, and scrolling and having a quick read. And that subject line, has to grab their attention, has to be congruent with what's in the actual email itself. And so, I think I look at some of the funnels we've put together, like for ourselves and for other people. And, some of them are just personal emails, basically. Like there's no branding in it or anything. It looks like you've sent an email to them. It's got an unsubscribe. Those are powerful. Like those are really powerful. So
all right. So you've come a long way. What's the plans for the year ahead, Glenn? What are you going to aim for this year? It's new decade. I just saw that, and I think it's sort of snuck up on me, to be honest. That it's a new decade. So what's the plans for you and Spike?
2020 plan is to grow my business a lot, and so I need to provide amazing, outstanding service for my current clients. So I'm rejigging my business to do that, and bringing in someone who's usually sits out of the office. I've had to let them go actually, and bring that. She's fine with that, and bring that person actually into the office. So those conversations, we're capturing conversations a lot faster and doing way better work for our clients. Really concentrating on our clients, and then just growing the business. And I think really helping people refer me. And the other thing I'm doing is I'm off. So Spike, want to grow Spike this year, and I've got some goals that I'm just really nailing. I wouldn't say they're all set in stone at the moment, but they will be soon. I usually write a statement. This year, 2019 or 2020, it's going to be the best year of our lives because, and I write a statement and then put some goals around that statement.
Okay, that's a nice little, that's sort of up there with those 5 things, isn't it? So you create a statement about your year, not like, is it almost like a little mini sort of commitment to yourself?
Yeah, and my wife and I, like, once we've done that statement, we've got some goals that we can list out, and then we actually go and check in on that once a month to see where we're at.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't do that last year very often, and we both felt that even though some good stuff happened, we didn't track it, and also, so you don't track it or note it, did it actually happen, right?
So you felt like you're a little bit all over the place.
Yeah. And this year I don't want to do that. So I want to be back to tracking everything and really getting ahead. Like, we get massive results for our clients, right? We've got one guy we're doing some Facebook ads for. We're getting 60x return on ad spend. Now that is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Everyone else is like 5 or 6, maybe 7 somewhere. No, he is getting 60. And we're trying to work out why. And it comes down to product market fit is actually why. But I think, like, that's crazy. He sells camping gear. So it's about learning what's working and then constantly, like, it's also simplifying. So I am going to nail the email guy this year. I am going to stick to being Glenn from Spike, the email guy. And, that's what people know me for. However, at the same time, I've got another business I'm starting with a guy, Charles Donahue, who I mentioned earlier. And the thing that I'm very passionate about is sales training and maximizing people and then growing them. So my Monday Motivator, which I wrote for 10 years without missing a Monday, and now I've been writing it again for the last few years. Things like that, like, just that's
so,
the next level for
so
me.
That's interesting in itself, isn't it? Like, that's just consistent stuff. I mean, I've read a lot of your Monday Motivators, and for you to do them every week for 10 years, that just creates that reputation, doesn't it?
Yeah, it was thousands of people read it, and then when I stopped it, it was really interesting. Now, when I've kicked it off, I've written some new ones. I've rewritten a lot of my old ones. I mean, I had 600 odd of them. So I've rewritten a lot of those to work out, like, am I the same person? Do I still think the same? And it's really interesting to redo those, get them re-illustrated and everything. But this year, like, I think, for some reason this year has a good feeling about it. I mean, if you're in Australia and you're in New South Wales right now, I really feel for you. And
big shout out to those people.
Yeah, you're probably not feeling like that right now. But look, if you've read Harry Potter, you'll know all about a phoenix and a mate. And I know in Australia, having been there, and my dad telling me stories there about when the rainy season happens and they will be out in the middle of the outback. My dad did gold fossicking for many years, and they'd come back through somewhere 3 weeks later that had been a desert, basically, come back through in the rain, and just these just amazing wildlife and stuff. So, look, I think, if people can see ahead, there's going to be big change in Australia, I think, coming up, and that's exciting.
With everything, like we talked about it earlier, isn't it? With every journey, there's some highs and lows, isn't it? And as tragic as the fires have been, and even though we probably all wish that they hadn't have happened, I find it amazing what's happened from that adversity. Like, if you look at all the the celebrities and the sportsmen and all the charity sort of events that are happening now.
Yeah.
And everyone is just pitching in to help. And it's
no one
a
knew
great
how
thing.
big Australia was, Darren. I just want to make, like, no one knew. And by no one, I mean basically everyone in America, and because they just don't, they're very,
They don't know anything.
And then Europeans, like, no one realizes, because you just see it on a map, that Australia stretches from the edge of Ireland to China. Like, it's a huge country.
Yeah.
And I think people are really getting that now. Like, this is huge. This makes their little countries look like just little.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, some countries can fit in multiple times into the amount of area that's been burning in Australia.
Oh, exactly. So I think, look, this year is going to be
New Zealand, one of them, I think.
Every single one in Europe, right? So I
Yeah.
think Texas even fits in there. Like, I mean, Australia is bigger than America. Like, it's just crazy. Anyway, so I think, well, that part. But I think, this year is going to, people need to. I've got a good feeling about 2020. I think 2019, seriously, for a lot of people, was terrible. It was a non-event. But do you know what? There'll be people out there who kicked ass.
All lessons. Well, everyone wins. Everyone wins, and everyone has adversity at some point, right?
It's true. It's true.
So we've been going for a little bit now. I don't want to take a lot of your time, and I know you're a very busy man, but I just want to ask you one really, really interesting question. So if you could meet the younger version of you, how old are you, and what would you say?
Okay, I like that question. I would say it would be in 2001, so I'd be 31.
When you're 30?
So 30. Yeah, and just be like, I'd just say keep punching. That's really it. Like, I don't, because if I did something that took me away from where I am today, like, I'd be like, whoa. But if I went back and saw myself, I would actually, do you know what? It'd be keep punching and think bigger, for sure. Like, and don't let people take those dreams away. Don't become realistic. Actually, that's probably what I'd say, because I think that being realistic is the death of many dreams. It's the death of many businesses. It's the death of many, even I would say, relationships. Like, being realistic. You don't need to be realistic. You need to be around people. You need to look at your friends, look at your family. Think about the picture the picture of yourself, your self-belief, that, the picture of yourself you hold to be true, the one that was programmed from the time you were 7 to like 14 by parents and teachers, and go, is this helping me? And then if you need to change that, you need to change it, because you can. And I think that that's going to just rocket you to the next thing, and don't be realistic.
Yeah, wow. That's a great statement. Don't be realistic.
Don't be realistic. You know? People, do you know what? I got some people used to call me Gunner. Gonna do this, gonna do that.
Yeah.
And I look back and I say, oh, yeah, I did. Yeah, I have.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, yeah, true. So it's like, I think, don't be realistic and think big. So yeah, that's what I would say something. I'd say keep punching, don't be realistic, and think big.
Nice. So Glenn, it's been a pleasure to talk to you today, and I'm in our inaugural, the Journey interview. So thank you very much for being a part of it. And how can people get hold of you? People want to work with you. People want to know a bit more about you. How can they find out about you?
So luckily, I have a name which not many other people have in the world. So at Glenn Edley, 2 N's, Edley on Instagram, Glenn Edley on LinkedIn, spike.co.nz, or Glenn from spike.com are the best ways. But
And
yeah, I love Instagram. So, hit me up on the gram. LinkedIn is always great
excellent.
for some very good conversations.
Yep.
Um,
And
and then,
definitely got to check out your Monday Motivator because it's back, isn't it?
well, it is, yeah. And I've actually started writing like brand new ones too. So I'm excited to
Nice.
sit down. Do you know, I used to sit down every Monday morning, no matter where I was, and I would get that thing out. And even on holidays, like,
Yeah.
and I think like that discipline of getting that thing out, that actually changed my life. I started that in 2004 to stay in contact with people, to prove also that frequency was thing, and was, you could see more than what people thought, and it grew my business. Just
Yep.
instead of sending stuff about myself, I would send something to kickstart your thinking. People really liked it. And I've had people, even because when I reintroduced it, I went back to those database, and I've got, so many people who are
Yeah.
like, yay, it's back,
Yeah. And that's, it doesn't matter what business you're in, that's applicable, isn't it? Doesn't
Yeah,
matter what size, what kind of business industry you're in. If you're consistent and you keep in front of mind of people, and
yeah,
you're going to win.
yeah. Consistency, trust, loyalty, bars and barbecues. It's gonna, you're gonna get it every time. And I think, you know what? Being consistent is quite hard in this day and age when it comes to how much content you think you should put out. And you're looking at Gary Vaynerchuk and you're forgetting that he has 8 to 11 people on his team helping him do that.
Yeah.
Like, just think about something that you can do, put it on that power list every day, cross it off every day until you get into the habit of like one post, one Facebook, one phone, one phone call, one whatever it is,
Yeah.
and get into
Just
that habit.
just
You'll pick
create
up.
the habit.
Yeah.
Great lessons. All right, Glenn, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. And there's so much stuff that people get out of this today that's been great, and a lot of value for everyone. So really appreciate it. And thanks again.
Yeah. Hey, thank you.
No worries.